Good evening, my dear friend. As the quietness of this night settles around us, and the world begins to slow its restless pace, I feel something stirring deep within my heart. It's gratitude. Not the surface-level thankfulness we offer in passing, but the kind that wells up from somewhere profound when we truly pause to see what God has done. Tonight, as I sit here in this gentle lamplight, with the day's noise finally fading, I'm overwhelmed by the realization that we are surrounded by blessings we barely notice. The very breath filling our lungs right now, the peace that comes when we choose to be still, the promise in Psalm 4, verse 8, that says we can lie down and sleep in peace because the Lord alone makes us dwell in safety. Before we begin this journey of gratitude together, I'd love to know where you're joining me from tonight. Are you watching from your bedroom? Your living room? Perhaps somewhere far from home, wherever you are. Please hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of evening prayer. If this prayer touches your heart tonight, I invite you to stay with me as we rest in God's abundant goodness and discover together how gratitude can transform not just our prayers, but our very souls. You know, I almost missed the small miracles today because I was so caught up in the endless rush of deadlines and responsibilities. But as I reflect back on these past 24 hours, I'm starting to see God's fingerprints everywhere I initially overlooked them. Take this morning's coffee, for instance. I poured that steaming cup without a second thought. But think about the miracle it represents. Clean water flowed from my tap, a gift that billions of people pray for daily. Electricity powered my coffee maker, connecting me to a vast network of power that spans continents. Those coffee beans traveled thousands of miles from mountains I'll never see, picked by hands I'll never shake. Yet somehow they found their way to my kitchen counter. Even that simple morning ritual was orchestrated by a God who cares about the details of my day. Then there was that frustrating sequence of red lights on my drive to work. I remember feeling irritated checking my watch, drumming my fingers on the steering wheel. But when I finally reached the office, my colleague mentioned seeing ambulances rushing toward an accident that happened exactly where I would have been if those lights had been green. Those red lights weren't obstacles. They were protection. God was working in what felt like delay to keep me from harm I never even knew was coming. And what about that unexpected kindness from strangers? The cashier at the grocery store who took extra time to help the elderly woman in front of me find her discount card, even though the line was growing longer. Her patience reminded me that kindness still exists in this hurried world. The man who held the elevator door when he could have pressed close, the neighbor who waved from across the street, the child who smiled at me in the parking lot. Each small gesture was like a gentle whisper from heaven saying, "You are not alone in this world." I took approximately 20,000 breaths today, and not once did I have to consciously command my lungs to expand and contract. My heart beat over 100,000 times without me having to remember to keep it pumping. My immune system fought off countless threats I never even knew were there. My brain processed millions of pieces of information, filtering what mattered and discarding what didn't. Every single one of these functions was a gift, a miracle of design that speaks to a creator who knows exactly what we need to sustain life. Even in my tight budget this month, somehow every need was met. The unexpected rebate check that arrived just when the car needed repair. The friend who invited me for dinner on the night my refrigerator was nearly empty. The sale on groceries that stretched my dollars further than I thought possible. None of these things happened because I'm particularly wise or deserving. They happened because I serve a God who sees every need before I even recognize it myself. Think about the miracle of technology that connects us right now. You could be watching this from another continent, yet here we are, sharing this moment of prayer across time zones and distances that would have been impossible to bridge just generations ago. The device you're using contains more computing power than the systems that sent humans to the moon, yet it fits in your hand. Every notification, every video call, every text message is a modern miracle we've learned to take for granted. This body I live in woke up this morning with systems functioning, thoughts flowing clearly, and the ability to move through my day with strength and coordination. My eyes captured light and translated it into images. My ears caught sound waves and turned them into meaning. My hands could touch and feel texture, temperature, pressure. Every sense was a gift, every function a blessing I never had to earn. Tonight, I have a roof over my head walls that protect me from wind and rain, a bed that will welcome my weary body for rest. While others search for shelter or sleep in uncertainty, I have been given the profound blessing of safety and security. This isn't something I achieved on my own merit. It's grace, pure and simple. The food in my refrigerator, even if it's simple, would be considered a feast by many in this world. The freedom to choose what to eat, when to eat, how much to have, reflects abundance that much of history could never have imagined. Even my worst meal this week was served with options seasoned with safety and shared in peace. But perhaps most remarkably, I've been given the gift of choice itself. Today, I made hundreds of decisions from what to wear to how to respond to challenges. Some choices were trivial, others significant, but all of them reflected the incredible dignity God has given humanity by making us decision makers rather than robots. He trusts us with choice, even when we choose poorly, because love cannot exist without freedom. But I know you like me. Carry more than gratitude tonight. There's something else weighing on your heart, isn't there? The truth is, trying to maintain gratitude while facing real challenges feels complicated sometimes. I want to be thankful, I really do, but there's this balancing act that exhausts me. How do I hold both appreciation for what I have and honest acknowledgement of what feels overwhelming? How do I thank God for blessings while simultaneously wrestling with burdens that seem too heavy to bear? Take work, for instance. I'm grateful to have employment when so many are struggling to find jobs, but the pressure feels relentless. There's my supervisor who seems to criticize more than encourage, leaving me questioning my competence daily. There are deadlines that pile up faster than I can complete them, creating a constant state of feeling behind. The fear of downsizing hangs over our department like a storm cloud, making every mistake feel potentially catastrophic. I catch myself checking job boards during lunch breaks, torn between guilt for not being more grateful and anxiety about potential unemployment. Then there's the financial stress that keeps me awake at night. I sit at my kitchen table with bills spread before me, like an impossible puzzle. Calculating and recalculating, trying to stretch dollars that seem to evaporate faster than I can earn them. The car needs new tires. The insurance premium went up. The medical bill from last month's urgent care visit arrived higher than expected. I find myself choosing between fixing the leaky faucet and buying groceries, between filling up the gas tank and putting aside savings. Even though I know God provides, the math never seems to add up, and I feel guilty for worrying about provision when I know I'm blessed compared to so many others. Family concerns weigh heavily too. My parents are aging, and I see them struggling with health issues they try to hide from their children. Dad's memory isn't what it used to be, and Mom pretends not to notice, but I catch the fear in her eyes. My teenager is making choices that terrify me, pushing boundaries. I thought we'd established questioning values. I hoped I'd successfully pass down. My marriage goes through seasons of feeling like we're roommates rather than lovers, both of us too tired from keeping life afloat to invest in the romance that once came so naturally. Extended family gatherings that used to bring joy now feel like minefields of old resentments and unresolved conflicts. Health worries creep into my thoughts at the worst moments. That persistent headache that might be nothing but could be something. The lab results I'm waiting for that probably show normal ranges, but might reveal the fear I don't want to name. Watching people I love battle illnesses that medicine can't fix. Wondering when my turn might come, feeling helpless against the fragility of these bodies we inhabit. Even my mental health feels fragile sometimes, like I'm one major crisis away from falling apart completely. There are dreams I've carried for years that seem increasingly distant now. Goals that once felt achievable now mock me from the horizon of impossibility. Talents I thought God gave me for a purpose seem to be gathering dust, while I pour my energy into just surviving each day. I look at others my age, who seem to have figured out success, who post about promotions and achievements and adventures, and I wonder what I've done wrong, why my path seems so much more complicated than theirs appears to be. The comparison trap snares me regularly, despite knowing better. Social media feeds filled with highlight reels make my behind-the-scenes struggles feel like failures. Everyone else seems to have their finances figured out. Their marriage is thriving, their children making honor roll, while mine barely passes math. I scroll through vacation photos while I'm calculating whether I can afford a weekend getaway 6 months from now. Their gratitude posts make my complaints feel petty, but my struggles feel too real to dismiss with simple positive thinking. Then there's the guilt that comes with wanting more, with not being satisfied with what I have. I feel ungrateful for desiring change, for wanting my circumstances to be different, for hoping for easier seasons ahead. Part of me believes that truly spiritual people would be content with whatever situation they find themselves in. That my restlessness reveals a lack of faith rather than a normal human response to genuine difficulties. Sometimes even prayer feels mechanical, like I'm going through motions without connecting to the heart behind them. God seems silent when I most need to hear His voice, absent when I most need His presence felt. The prayers I've been praying for years remain unanswered in ways I can see, and I wonder if I'm doing something wrong, or if He's forgotten about the deepest longings of my heart. There's an exhaustion that comes from trying to be strong all the time, from maintaining faith and positivity when everything inside me wants to collapse. People look to me for encouragement, for wisdom, for stability, and some days I feel like I'm barely holding myself together, let alone being a source of strength for others. The weight of expectations, both my own and those of others, feels crushing when I'm already struggling to keep my head above water. World events add another layer of heaviness to personal struggles. How do I focus on gratitude for my small blessings when innocent people are suffering in ways I can barely comprehend? How do I thank God for my safe neighborhood when violence tears apart communities elsewhere? How do I celebrate my freedom when others live under oppression? My personal gratitude feels insignificant against the backdrop of global pain, and yet ignoring my own struggles doesn't seem to help anyone else either. In this quiet darkness, these thoughts seem to grow louder, more insistent, more overwhelming than they felt during the busy daylight hours. It's 3 a.m, and I'm wide awake again, staring at the ceiling, while everyone else in the world seems to be peacefully sleeping. This is when the walls feel like they're closing in, when problems that seemed manageable during daylight hours transform into insurmountable mountains. My mind races through scenarios I can't control, solutions I can't implement, conversations I should have had differently. The silence of night amplifies everything. Without the distractions of daytime noise, traffic, people, and activity, my worries echo in the emptiness like voices in a canyon. Each concern bounces off the walls of my consciousness, growing louder with each repetition. The heating system clicks on and off, the house settles with small creaks and sighs. But these normal sounds feel ominous in the darkness, reminders of all the things that could go wrong, systems that could fail, security that could vanish. My body responds to the mental turmoil with physical sensations that make rest impossible. My chest feels tight, like there's a weight pressing down that I can't lift. My heart races with an urgency that has no outlet, pumping adrenaline for a fight-or-flight response to problems that can't be solved by running or fighting. The blankets that should comfort feel too heavy, too warm, too restrictive. I throw them off, only to pull them back on moments later, when the cold air hits skin that's somehow both clammy and chilled. I imagine everyone else sleeping soundly in their beds, their minds at peace, their hearts calm, their bodies relaxed, couples curled together in contentment, children dreaming innocent dreams, even strangers in houses I'll never see, resting in security I seem unable to find. The isolation feels complete when I'm the only one awake in a sleeping world, alone with thoughts that grow darker in the absence of light. Memories surface unbidden in these quiet hours, rising like ghosts from years I thought I'd made peace with. The job opportunity I was too afraid to take, wondering now where that path might have led. The relationship I ended too hastily, the one I stayed in too long. The words I spoke in anger that I can never retrieve. The chances I missed because I was waiting for perfect timing that never came. Each memory carries the weight of regret, the sting of wondering what if the pain of recognizing my own role in outcomes I wish I could change. My mind creates future scenarios with the same vivid detail, but painted in the darkest possible colors. I see myself losing my job and unable to find another savings-depleted home. Foreclosed family, disappointed. I imagine health crises that leave me dependent and diminished relationships that crumble under pressures. I can't prevent children who grow up to blame me for failures I'm powerless to avoid. These aren't rational thoughts, but rationality has little power in the 3 a.m. darkness when fear wears the mask of possibility. Questions without answers cycle through my consciousness like a broken record, playing the same painful song. Why do good people suffer while evil seems to prosper? Why do my prayers feel like they hit the ceiling and bounce back unanswered? Why does life feel so much harder than I expected it to be when I was young and optimistic? Why does God feel distant when I need Him close, silent when I need His voice absent, when I need His presence most tangibly felt? I carry secrets in this darkness that I can't share with anyone. Shame about failures. I've never confessed mistakes. I've covered up fears I'm too proud to admit. The isolation compounds when I realize how much of my inner world remains hidden, even from those closest to me. How much of my struggle they don't see, how much of my pain I manage with a smile during daylight hours, how much of my doubt I disguise as faith when others are watching. The weight of responsibility feels crushing when there's no one else awake to help carry it. I think about everyone who depends on me, who looks to me for strength, provision, wisdom, stability. How can I be what they need when I feel so inadequate, so uncertain, so barely hanging on myself? The fear of letting them down, of failing in my roles as provider-protector guide, adds another layer of pressure to an already overwhelming load. There's a cultural expectation that surrounds us, even in faith communities, to maintain constant positivity, to always find the silver lining, to never admit that sometimes life feels too difficult to bear. The pressure to be grateful all the time, to see every trial as a blessing in disguise, to trust without questioning, can make honest struggle feel like spiritual failure. So I lie here alone with thoughts. I'm supposed to take captive feelings. I'm supposed to surrender fears. I'm supposed to replace with faith. But tonight, I'm learning that even this darkness has a purpose, that even these sleepless hours might be leading somewhere I couldn't reach in the bright business of day. Something shifts in this moment, a decision forming in the depths of my spirit that feels both gentle and revolutionary. I'm choosing gratitude not as a feeling I have to manufacture, but as an act of faith I can deliberately make. Not because everything feels perfect, but because I'm learning to see God's hand, even in the imperfect, even in the difficult, even in the painful places I've been trying to escape. I'm grateful for this struggle, strange as that sounds, because it's teaching me things about strength I never knew I possessed. Every challenge I've faced and survived has added another layer of resilience to my character. The problems that once seemed impossible to overcome now serve as proof that I'm capable of more than I believed. The muscles of my faith have grown stronger from the weight they've had to carry, like physical exercise that hurts in the moment, but builds capacity for greater endurance. I'm thankful for the doors that closed, even when the slamming sound broke my heart. Last year, when I didn't get the promotion I thought I deserved, I was devastated. But staying in my current position led me to meet my now closest friend, taught me skills I wouldn't have developed elsewhere, and prepared me for opportunities that are only now beginning to emerge. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. What seemed like God saying no was Him protecting me from a path that would have led away from His best plans. I'm grateful for the waiting, for all the times when God's timing differed from my urgency. The relationship that didn't work out when I wanted it to cleared the way for the love that came later. The house we couldn't afford then led us to the neighborhood where we found community we never would have discovered otherwise. The baby that didn't come when we expected taught us to treasure the one who arrived in God's perfect timing. The healing that took longer than I hoped gave others time to witness faith in process, showing them that trust isn't just for easy seasons. I'm appreciating the people who left my life, even though their departures felt like abandonment. The friend who grew distant when I most needed support made room for deeper friendships with people who proved more faithful. The mentor who disappointed me taught me to place my ultimate trust in God alone rather than human heroes. The family members who chose division over unity showed me the precious value of those who choose love over being right. Every goodbye that hurt cleared space for hellos that blessed. I'm thankful for my limitations, for the boundaries that initially felt like restrictions, but turned out to be protection. The budget constraints that forced creativity and taught me the difference between wants and needs. The physical limitations that slowed me down enough to notice beauty I would have rushed past. The emotional capacity limits that taught me to say no to good things in order to say yes to the best things. The intellectual humility that came from acknowledging what I don't know, creating space for continuous learning and growth. I'm celebrating the small victories that easy circumstances never could have produced. The courage I found to make that difficult phone call, to have that necessary conversation, to set that important boundary. The choice to respond with kindness when everything in me wanted to retaliate. The decision to keep showing up even when I didn't feel like it, to keep trying even when progress seemed invisible, to keep believing even when evidence felt scarce. I'm honored by my emotions, even the painful ones, because they're evidence of being fully alive rather than numb. The grief that overwhelms me sometimes shows how deeply I've loved. The anger that occasionally surfaces reveals how much I care about justice and righteousness. The fear that keeps me awake demonstrates how much the people and things in my life matter to me. Even depression, when it visits, reminds me of my need for connection, purpose, and hope. I'm amazed at my own growth when I compare this year's challenges to previous seasons. Problems that would have devastated me 5 years ago, I now navigate with tools I've learned. Perspectives, I've gained wisdom, I've accumulated through experience. I'm not the same person I was when these difficulties began, and that transformation is itself a gift worth celebrating even if the process was painful. I'm praising God for His silence, for the unanswered prayers that initially felt like abandonment, but now look like protection. How many times was His, no, actually mercy in disguise? How many disasters did His delays prevent? How many times did His timing, though different from mine, prove perfect in ways I couldn't see from my limited vantage point? His silence wasn't absence, but the wisdom to know when speaking would interfere with the work He was doing in ways too deep for words. I'm grateful for my community, even when I feel most alone, because I can remember faces of people who have carried me when I couldn't carry myself. The friend who showed up without being asked, the neighbor who checked in during the hardest week, the stranger who offered help when my car broke down, the family member who listened without trying to fix everything. Even in isolation, I'm surrounded by evidence of love. I'm thanking God for His patience with me, for the way He continues to pursue my heart, even when I'm questioning, doubting, struggling, failing. He hasn't given up on me, despite my inconsistency hasn't withdrawn. His love, despite my imperfection, hasn't canceled His plans despite my mistakes. His faithfulness remains steady when mine wavers. His love stays constant when mine feels conditional. The power of speaking gratitude aloud becomes an act of defiance against despair, a declaration of faith in the face of circumstances that suggest otherwise. I choose to trust tomorrow before it arrives, to thank God for provision before I see it, to celebrate solutions before they manifest, to rest in His goodness before I understand His methods. As I release these burdens into His capable hands, I feel something shifting in the atmosphere around me and within me. Like warm honey flowing through tense muscles, peace begins to enter spaces in my body I didn't even realize were tight. My shoulders drop away from my ears, where stress had pulled them. My jaw unclenches, releasing tension I'd been carrying for hours without noticing. My breathing naturally slows and deepens, shifting from the shallow, rapid rhythm of anxiety to the fuller, more satisfying rhythm of calm. Each exhale seems to carry away worry. Each inhale brings fresh trust. My thoughts, which moments ago were scattered like leaves in a windstorm, begin to arrange themselves into some kind of order. Priorities naturally organize themselves with urgent matters, settling into their actual size rather than consuming all available mental space. The problems that felt overwhelming start to shrink back to their true proportions, still real, but no longer gigantic. Solutions I couldn't see through the fog of panic begin to emerge with gentle clarity. Options that were always there become visible again. I become aware of God's presence not through dramatic signs or audible voices, but like the sensation of someone gently placing a hand on my shoulder. There's a comfort that comes from knowing I'm not navigating these challenges alone, that wisdom greater than my own is available, that strength beyond my own capacity is being offered. The God who created galaxies and holds them in place is also intimately concerned with the details of my daily struggles. Memories surface again. But this time, they're different memories. Times when God showed up just when I needed him most, when provision appeared from unexpected sources, when doors opened that I hadn't even known to knock on. The hospital room where I felt his peace during medical uncertainty. The job interview that led to opportunities I never could have orchestrated. The conversation that healed a relationship I thought was permanently broken. The check that arrived on the day the bills were due. The phone call that came exactly when loneliness was overwhelming me. My ability to imagine the future shifts from worst-case scenarios to genuine possibilities for good. I can picture myself not just surviving current challenges, but actually thriving through them. I can envision relationships being restored, health being renewed, finances being stabilized, dreams being fulfilled. Not through naive optimism that ignores reality, but through hope that remembers God's track record of bringing beauty from ashes, strength from weakness, joy from mourning. I find myself grateful for this very peace I'm experiencing, recognizing it as yet another gift from a God who delights in giving good things to his children. This isn't something I manufactured through positive thinking or worked up through emotional manipulation. This is grace, descending love. Responding faithfulness, proving itself once again in the quiet places where only God and I can witness it. My sense of personal agency returns, not the exhausting kind that tries to control everything, but the healthy kind that recognizes my power to choose my responses. I can choose gratitude over complaint, trust over worry, love over fear. I can choose to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than threats to my security. I can choose to believe God's promises over my circumstances, his character over my confusion, his plans over my panic. Energy returns to my spirit, but it's different from the frantic energy that drives anxiety. This is grateful exhaustion, the kind that comes after a good day's work, the kind that actually allows rest rather than fighting it. I'm tired, but not depleted, weary, but not hopeless, ready for sleep, but not escaping into it. My heart posture undergoes a fundamental shift from demanding answers to trusting the one who has them. I don't need to understand every detail of God's plan to rest in his goodness. I don't need to see the entire staircase to take the next step in faith. I don't need to figure everything out to believe that he already has. I notice specific ways provision has come that I initially attributed to coincidence or luck. The overtime hours that became available right when car repairs were needed. The neighbor who offered to share garden vegetables during the week groceries ran low. The unexpected tax refund that covered medical bills. The friend who mentioned a job opening that turned out to be perfect. None of these happened because I'm particularly deserving, but because I serve a God who notices needs before I even voice them. Gratitude seems to multiply itself, creating more reasons for gratitude in an endless upward spiral. The more I thank God, for the more I notice there is to thank him for. The more I acknowledge his goodness, the more his goodness becomes visible in places I previously overlooked. The more I practice seeing his hand in my circumstances, the more natural it becomes to recognize his involvement in every detail of my life. There's an intimacy in this moment that feels both personal and cosmic. The awareness that the God who created everything that exists also knows my name, hears my thoughts, cares about my concerns, and delights in my joy. I'm not just a number in some vast cosmic system, but a beloved child whose father is personally invested in every aspect of my well-being. This peace that fills me now isn't just for this moment. It's a preview of the rest that's available. whenever I choose to approach life through the lens of gratitude and trust. Tonight, I choose to rest in gratitude for what I've seen and what I haven't yet experienced. I choose to place tomorrow, with all its unknowns and uncertainties, into the same hands that have faithfully carried me through every yesterday. I can see myself laying each concern at His feet like stones from my pockets that I no longer need to carry. The job situation, the financial pressures, the family, complications, the health worries, the dreams that feel delayed, all of it released into His capable care. I'm grateful for the gift of sleep that awaits me, for the miracle of restoration that happens while my conscious mind rests. While I sleep, my body will repair itself. My mind will process the day's experiences. My spirit will commune with God in ways deeper than waking prayer. The 8 hours ahead aren't empty time, but active healing. Not unconscious void, but subconscious renewal. Like the psalmist who wrote about the one who never sleeps, keeping watch over those who rest. I can surrender to sleep, knowing that my security doesn't depend on my vigilance. God's attention never wavers. His protection never lapses. His love never takes a break. While I rest, He remains alert, guarding not just my physical safety, but my emotional well-being, my spiritual growth, my future possibilities. I thank Him in advance for tomorrow's provision, though I don't yet know what form it will take, for the strength that will be exactly sufficient for whatever challenges arise, for the wisdom that will come precisely when decisions need to be made, for the grace that will cover every mistake and the mercy that will meet every need, for the opportunities that are even now being prepared, the relationships that are being arranged, the solutions that are taking shape beyond my ability to see or understand. I ask for His peace to guard my heart and mind through these night hours, to fill my dreams with hope rather than fear, to help my sleep be deep and restorative rather than fitful and anxious. I pray that when I wake, it will be with fresh perspective, renewed energy, and confident expectation for the good He will do. This prayer extends beyond myself to include you, dear friend, who has chosen to spend these moments with me in reflection and worship. May the gratitude we have explored together become a reality in your own heart. May the peace that I'm experiencing overflow to touch your circumstances, your relationships, your dreams, your fears. May you discover for yourself the abundant goodness that surrounds us, even in difficult seasons. I choose tonight to see God's goodness as limitless rather than scarce, His resources as inexhaustible rather than finite, His love as unconditional rather than performance-based. There's enough grace for every mistake, enough strength for every challenge, enough wisdom for every decision, enough love for every longing. His abundance isn't diminished by my need, but revealed through it. I'm grateful for the privilege of influencing others toward faith through sharing my own journey of trust. Every person who finds hope through vulnerability discovers peace through honest prayer experiences. Healing through authentic community becomes part of a legacy that extends far beyond what I can see. The ripple effects of choosing gratitude in hard places, trust in uncertain times, love in difficult relationships creates waves that touch shores. I'll never visit. For future generations who will inherit the faith foundation being built today, I'm grateful. Children and grandchildren who will know that God can be trusted because they watched their parents and grandparents trust Him through real difficulties. Young people who will have courage to face their own challenges because they witnessed previous generations finding strength in surrender peace in problems why in journeys they wouldn't have chosen. The conversation between my heart and God's heart continues even as I prepare for sleep, knowing that prayer doesn't end when formal words conclude, but carries on through grateful dreams, peaceful rest and trust that transforms even unconscious hours into worship. I invite you to return tomorrow night and the nights that follow as we continue to discover together how gratitude can transform not just our prayers, but our entire approach to life. There's always more to be thankful for, always deeper reasons for trust, always fresh evidence of God's faithfulness waiting to be recognized by hearts willing to see. Picture yourself now resting in God's loving care, surrounded by His abundant provision, covered by His protective presence, held by His unchanging love. Like a child who falls asleep easily because they trust their parents' watchfulness, you can release yourself to rest, knowing that every detail of your life matters to Him. What burden will you choose to release into His hands tonight? What area of your life most needs the peace that comes through grateful trust? How has God shown His faithfulness to you in ways you're just beginning to recognize? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this prayer has blessed you, please like this video and share it with someone who might need to remember God's goodness tonight. Subscribe to join our community of people learning to see life through the lens of gratitude. Thank you for allowing me to share this sacred time with you. Thank you for choosing to seek God's face in the quiet moments when the world has stopped demanding your attention. Thank you for believing that transformation is possible, that peace is available, that tomorrow can be different because of how we choose to end today. May your sleep be deep and restorative, your dreams filled with hope and promise, your awakening bright with fresh gratitude for another day of His mercies that are new every morning. May you rest tonight in the confidence that nothing is lost in God's hands, even while you sleep, and wake tomorrow with renewed awareness of His abundant blessings surrounding your life. Rest well, my friend. God's peace be with you.